to introduce JJ and Leonard, two wonderful artists, music artists, DJs to be specific, and we're going to spend a little bit of time here talking about your art, your craft, and maybe a little bit about influence, how it's kind of evolved through the time, through the ages, and what are those influencers, besides you being the influencer. So let's just start off easy, guys.
Yeah,
tell me about yourselves. JJ, tell me a compendium of your life.
Sure, real quick. Well, around this, I'm a DJ. I'm also a director of a radio station and an adjunct professor, and I teach radio and audio production, and I'm also a DJ. And so I started DJing in 1995 here in San Antonio, and I've been planted here. And but it didn't take me long to realize that I wanted to stay here, and I like San Antonio. And really, that's it. I'm a huge music fan since I was a child. I've been playing house music since '95, and it's been my primary thing. Also, a lot of soul music. I've hosted a lot of nights throughout the years, and it's been a great ride. And yeah, that's what I do.
Adjunct professor where? Zach?
Trinity and UIW.
Trinity and UIW. That's so cool. That's real cool. We're going to have to come back and talk a little bit about that. Education is a huge thing for me. Leonard, tell us a little bit about you.
Well, kind of following the same path. I started DJing about 1990, 91, right out of high school. Got into running record stores, DJing out on the scene, started my own radio show, house parties. Fast forward 20-some odd years later, I'm also a teacher. I work in elementary special education, so that's been kind of also a passion of mine as well.
Yeah.
This is more of a, I don't want to say hobby, I mean, it's just kind of an extension of what I used to do before teaching. But really, between music, sharing it, dancing, and being able to spend time with friends, even just to do this behind turntables, it's been a true blessing, I guess. So, but that's in a nutshell. I mean, we could probably go on with both of our lives.
No, that's a good nutshell. For you, I've also had a little bit of experience teaching, or at least mentoring and sharing in the field of the arts, mostly the visual arts. But I do have, certainly I have an affinity for music and an appreciation for music. Nothing like the construct that you have, but I'm certainly interested in. Let's talk about that. All right, so I guess the very first and most obvious question is always going to be, what is your musical background? Or in which way have you developed as a musician or as an artist of sound?
Mine really, I wouldn't say there was a musical background growing up. I don't have very fond memories, or not fond, just memories of music being, planted at an early age. However, it wasn't until, I don't know, around 8th grade, going into middle school and high school, where, started paying attention to a lot of hip hop, industrial, new wave, all these things that were coming out, kind of on the underbelly in San Antonio, which wasn't really something that seemed to be out in the forefront of, nightlife. I didn't have much of a nightlife as a teenager, but I think as a former skateboarder, that exposed me to just music in general, and then that evolved into working in a record store. That opened up a whole whirlwind of just influences, inspiration, and a couple of key mentors in my life growing up, just being exposed to as much music as possible. But the record store, I think, was probably like the hub of where I got a lot of my influences and exposure to all kinds of music, be it popular stuff, underground, music of all genres. So I kind of was able to kind of touch base with a little bit of everything, which really added to my repertoire as I got older and, started really getting into DJing, having a DJ out and about to different crowds and different clientele.
So kind of similar to how someone that works at a video store begins to love film, begins to study film, in that same area. Okay, and we'll definitely have to come back and talk about some of your favorites, or some of your most of your influencers, because I'm sure that there was a strand or a development, and something with a rhythm or cadence, pun intended. All right, so JJ.
Oh man, maybe I can just get to it real quick. I guess as a child, about 1979, it was Cool Gang. I had a Cool Gang tape first, and then around 1984, I had a Herbie Hancock tape, and then I bought my first LP, which was the soundtrack to Beat Street, because I was a big break dancer. And then in 1989, I went to my first nightclub, and then that was it. I put the skateboard away, I put everything away, and I got stuck there. And then in 1994, 1995, I went to my first big rave, and raves were sweeping across Texas, and it really started to solidify it all. No more college, no more this, no more that. Like, I just want to do this. Yeah, and then I met Leonard in 1995. In 1996, 97, we started to run a record store together. And in the same way, started to get exposed to a lot of music. And really, since then, it has just been a conversation between Leo and I about, how we play music, records that inspire us. Can we play a record a certain way? And we've traveled a lot, and it's just been a big adventure. But never losing sight of music or dance music. It's been a lifelong journey.
Interesting that so neither of you play an instrument, or you do play an instrument? If so, which instrument, and is it important to DJing?
I mean, there was a time in my life where I wanted to be Robert Johnson. I really wanted to be a blues guitarist, and I was really into the blues, and I thought that was going to be my path, but I don't know, I just stopped playing. I know how to play guitar, and I understand some music theory. When you get a degree in music business, you have to have some exposure to music, but no, not really. And now I take a lot of pride in that. It's okay. I'm a disc jockey. I don't read or cite music or play an instrument. I'm okay with that. I'm a disc jockey.
What about you, Larry?
I mean, growing up, I dabbled in playing piano, a little bit of drums, and guitar. I just never really gravitated toward it as a discipline. I think I had too many distractions just growing up as a kid. I just wanted to be a kid and enjoy all the other things that my parents had around to offer. I think that the closest I got to maybe being, holding my own, or at least felt comfortable, was guitar. But I never went to school for any of that. It's just kind of gravitated more to playing music, and I think that that's where I made the connection of being able to, make sense of how things are constructed, arrangements and things like that, which would play heavily later on when we started recording music, because even though I didn't have a foot on necessarily knowing how to make music, I had ideas I could simply, construct with the technology that was available. And then I would surround myself with musicians or people who had a deeper understanding to kind of convey those ideas to, I guess kind of like just injecting a bit of steroids in it and really making it sound the way I hear it in my head, but I just didn't have the skill set to maybe play those things. But I think that being embedded in DJ culture and DJing, it's different because you know what works in social settings and dance settings, especially how people react to certain music, or at least certain sounds within music, particular drum rhythms and patterns. And that was really helpful for our production and to kind of keep a good balance of musicianship as well as relevance on the dance floor, I guess, so to speak. So it was helpful, but I hope that I can find the time to try to make the time to learn how to play guitar better. I enjoy it. It's relaxing. So.
Well, as we get to the next question, I want to acknowledge the AM Project and Blanc Creative for being such gracious hosts and for continuing to support artists and musicians in our community, right?
Yeah.
What a standing.
Can I just make a comment?
Absolutely.
So I just want to recognize Leonard was one of our founding DJs, instructors, when we got the AM Project.
So Leonard, you were one of the founding DJs and instructors as the inception of the AM Project.
Yes.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah, no, I'm glad to see how this is taking fruition and really kind of like expanded. I mean, all the ideas that are now reality, I remember sitting here and talking about them. And at first I thought, like, man, those are some grand ideas. It's like, let's do it. Like, it was the first time I had ever seen anyone come to the table with these types of ideas and actually make them a reality. So kudos to you guys for actually making that.
Awesome.
And it couldn't happen without people like Leonard, like JJ, and the rest of our community. Again, we have big dreams, but we have big supporters behind us.
It's clear that you guys have both an artist side and also a side that wants to forward or mentor or teach and continue on something greater than yourselves, greater than the sum of yourselves. So awesome. All right, so going forward, in my field, to give you a little bit of reference, in my field, there's a couple of us that still use film, and I'm talking about chemical, like actual particle film, and it's become a nostalgic use. No one really uses it practically. The technology is antiquated, most of the support doesn't exist, and for the most part, everyone chooses the superior digital technology. Now, you two guys are fond of vinyl. Your vinyl is part of your discipline, right? And that continues to be your, a little bit old school, right? And maybe, so tell us a little bit about what the vinyl, tell us what this analog romance means to you guys. Yeah.
Nice. It's a great band name.
Yeah.
Analog romance. Okay, trademark. That was a good movie.
Well,
Let's make a band.
It's a trio.
when we started DJing, together, and vinyl was really the only format. So they're really, you either play, and really the only people that were really buying vinyl records were DJs, and that's the kind of the idea was behind that. Promoters, if you wanted to get new music that nobody else had, you had to go to a record store to find, a limited press of, a certain song or whatever, and cities like Chicago and New York and overseas in London and Germany, like there were all these little hubs of different communities that still believed in music, or it was really about pushing the music. Vinyl was just the medium in which it was, promoted. It was, you could do a run of 300 or 400 copies of something, send them out, and hopefully get a buzz. And it maybe got licensing on some compilations of CDs, or you're talking about like before commercials and things started buying the rights to the songs. So vinyl was, I love records and whatnot, but I'm not opposed to the technology either. I think that it's great for the art and the craft. I think it's great for the music, and more importantly, I think it really levels the playing field for a lot of young and older people that might be interested in DJing, that may not have felt like they had access to knowing, those record stores, or knowing those people that got those particular records. You either had really deep pockets, or you had to, run in certain circles. So there was a little bit of mystique about it, which, drew a lot of people in. But I don't think that the format in itself really, that was just what you played. And as technology started evolving, it really became kind of like almost a nostalgia thing, because not many people would do it anymore.
And why is that? Why wouldn't it? Is there a technological inconvenience to the use of vinyl? Or is there a very particular set of brushstrokes that are old school and require some finesse?
I know exactly what I want to say, but I'm not going to.
No, JJ. Yeah.
I just think that the medium, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. I've heard DJs that have played crappy stuff on record. That doesn't make them any less or more than the DJ who plays on a controller or a laptop. Just because you're playing a certain medium doesn't really, push you up the hierarchy, so to speak.
Okay.
At the end, it's just music. So what you do with it, and I think that's probably my critique, is that I hear too many DJs playing the digital technology and limit themselves as if there was vinyl. Because in vinyl, there are limits to what you can do, but there's also a certain approach on how you play those records. So it's not good or bad, it's just a preference. But if you're playing, if you've got all this technology and all these bells and whistles that you can manipulate and reinvent and the art form and reinterpret it through your creative side, more power to you. Like, I want to hear it, I want to see it, and I want you to be able to share it with as many people. I think you get too wrapped up in the convenience side of it that, it's a drag. Lugging out turntables, crates of records. You know, I mean, it's hard on the back and it's not fun. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's necessarily going to be a better dance experience. Because that's ultimately, I think, what we do is just, we want to make people dance and have a good time.
Right.
You know, you want to pay attention to sound quality and all those other things. And that's a whole other ball of wax. But really, I think I didn't start realizing it until most of the time I started realizing how turntable setups with plain vinyl weren't ideally set up for optimum sound quality. They're usually pretty beat up because you're bouncing from gig to gig.
Right.
And so the idea is that it sounds better, but in actuality, I've heard digital setups that in settings, if that's what they have to work with, sound equally if not better because you have more control over certain aspects. It can be one or the other, but
Right.
I don't think it's necessarily better or worse. You know, it's just how you use it.
JJ, tell us about your analog romance.
Analog romance.
Thank you, Leonard. for sharing.
I don't know, my experience with records, like Leonard said, I mean, when we started, it was only records. I didn't know anything else. But I remember when the first CDJs came, I'm like, that's cool. But there's still, at the time, there was a lot more available on vinyl. And so I really didn't think about it. And before I knew it, mostly everybody was using the CDJs. And I'm like, that's cool, but I tried it once or twice. It just didn't feel natural. And the last thing I want to do is force my art. I want to be intimate with my art. And I'm attracted to records, and I like the experience. I like looking at vinyl. I like reading liner notes, and whether it's a dance record or a rock record or a great jazz record, I like vinyl. It was the first or second medium that I had as a child. And then it came to a point where all the DJs were having conversations about the technology, and we've all agreed, that it isn't the medium, it's the skill of the DJ that really can make or break the dance floor. And we've heard all our legends play on digital, and I respect it. But back to my experience with it, it comes to this point where I was just like, I work on a computer all day. I do things on computers all day, and the last thing I want to do is go to a DJ gig and have to Control F to find my song. I'd rather look for the record and know that I've bent it up so many times and I've played it so much. I like that. There's an aesthetic there that resonates with me, and I prefer that. I don't want to blur the technology with my art, so I'm in my comfortable little spot with records. Sometimes it's a hang-up, right? If I show up to a gig and I'm the only guy on vinyl, I'm like, great, I'm the old guy here, I'm the only one playing records, but just let me get on and then I'm good, so. But I'm okay with that now. I've come to terms with it.
All right. And for those who are technologically challenged, what is it? Control F means fine.
Fine.
Fine, yeah, it's a computer language.
On the Mac.
On the Mac.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, Louis Cardinals will appreciate that clarity. Yeah. All right. Well, guys, if you guys had to pick one vinyl that you treasure the most.
Not gonna happen.
Not gonna happen? I know it's kind of like asking, what's your favorite movie? Which is stupid. It changes through time. But what would be your treasure vinyl if you have one?
Wow, my treasure.
Yeah, you gotta think about this one a little too. You gotta narrow it down to one.
Oh,
And a quick why. Or maybe because it doesn't have to be an important one, but it's an important one to you. Like you found it was special. You bought it was your first dollar.
Or it doesn't even matter. Well, I still have my very first LP, the breakdance one. And when I pull the sleeve out, I lost it. It's got a newspaper I used as the filler from 1984. It's awesome. I think it's my beat up copy of Steely Dan's Asia. It's a flawless record. And no matter what my mood, it's always on my phone, or it's on my work computer, or it's in my car. Not the record, but I have a copy of it somewhere digitally. And usually that record is.
And is that a digital copy of your record?
No, it's just
Okay.
it's one of my favorite records. Top 5 records of all time. And my copy of Asia is, I know where all the creases are, I know where the bends are, I know where it pops on the B-side. It's my copy.
Yeah.
It's probably it's just a $3 record. It's not expensive, but I treasure it. It's mine. It's mine.
Lenny?
I wish I had I have too many damn records.
How many do you have?
How many records do you have, man?
He's got a lot.
I've got a lot.
He's got a lot.
Like more than 10, more than 10,000, like
More than 10.
1,000.
1,000, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Well, I will say this, that if there's a record that I think really helped me kind of find my ear, so to speak. And it also kind of lends to who was heavily influenced on a production end, and just kind of helped me rethink about how to play dance music and just approach music in general to making people dance. It would have to be New Eureka Soul's album, from Masters of War. And that record came out at a really interesting time, only because house music up to that point, for me, it was getting clubbier and harder. It was fun, but I knew that there was more. And I would later read and find out that those same producers felt the same way about club and dance music. Like, there's got to be more than just 4 to 4, bangers, club bangers, and things like that. And that album, they worked with all their heroes. Eddie Palmieri, Tito Puente, La India, they had Jazzy Jeff, George Benson. So, it was a superstar group of musicians that they did a lot of covers and remakes, which introduced me to a lot of different type of records, and more like a connection of the dots. And so it's like, oh, well, who's that guy? Well, what did he do? And then, you start, kind of just connecting the dots. And so it really had a huge influence on my musical palette to be able to be like, no, you know what, this is okay. I can play disco, and I can play hip hop, and I can play house, and I can play drum and bass. And, it was a beautifully constructed album from beginning to end. You can listen to it anytime. It really changed how I listened to music, I think, and it helped me meet a lot of interesting people that I don't think I would have maybe been open to meeting, just because they were from different sets. But that kind of was a connector, and it allowed for great, deeper meaning conversations, music conversations.
When I think about what you guys do, and from a perspective that does not understand anything about what you do, right? I don't know anything about how to mechanically create what you create, right? The closest understanding I have is like you guys are musical alchemists, right? You are able to bond different things together musically, and they sound and they taste beautifully to others. So in a world of near infinite options and possibilities and combinations, where do you draw inspiration to come up with the next mix, next scratch, next combination, your next alchemy?
I do a mix every week.
So where do you draw some type of inspiration that says I'm inspired to create something new, even if it by the combinations of chemistry isn't new, but that feels new or refreshing, or and at the very least it feels genuine.
Well, lately, obviously, the internet obviously has played a huge game changer, so to speak, because I'm hearing music that I don't think I would have ever been able to be, hearing as it was either being released or rediscovered for the first time or the second time, and everybody's talking about it, they're sharing those experiences with those records, Facebook and Instagram, Twitter, all these different forms of communication. So it's kind of, if you're in certain chat groups, I guess you kind of are in a record store, so to speak. And even though it's not the same, it's information that you're getting as it's happening. So it's kind of the digital version of when the records show up at the store and they crack it open and everybody's like, what's that, playing it on the loudspeaker. That's about as close as I get. I don't really get to go out as much anymore. I have almost a 2-year-old, so it's kind of, between teaching and this is just something that I do to keep my sanity and kind of keep a harmonious life. So
It's interesting how all artists share an affinity for keeping sanity through expression. And I completely support that. I think that we are creatures we're humans that are meant to create. We're humans that are meant to express, and without it, we go a little crazy. So this is great. This is how you express.
Oh, no doubt.
JJ.
I think it's the next. For me, the plane of records is really the skill's already there. Like I change records and I mix. I'm not really working on my cuts or how can I better mix. So really, I'm after the next record. What is more interesting, and then when is my next opportunity to play to a crowd? And I get really excited. Like I can't wait to play this for this crowd. Even if it's kids that chalk it up, I'll probably bring a new record and I'm like, oh, they're gonna love it, even though they may not love it. But But I just get excited for the next gig, next opportunity to share an exciting record with people. That inspires me. Sometimes I'll get really excited. I'll buy a lot of records waiting for that right gig, and it may never come, but it's okay. It's in my head, and it keeps me going forward.
Now, I got a tough one, speaking of kids, or referring to that. Like any art, it is met with a great deal of doubt in general, right? And it's great in speculation. But like any art, it is the artists that have the fortitude and the confidence and the passion to commit to it that shine. So what do you tell a younger person, a young mind, a young artist that says, this excites me, this interests me, I want to do this, but, and then fill in the blank, there's plenty of buts. I want to do this, but so-and-so says that, or whatever.
Right.
What do you tell the young minds, or what tips do you give them? And tips isn't the right word. I'm really looking more for, what's your philosophical stand? How do you inspire others to say, pursue it. Pursue what you want. You want to be a DJ?
Yes.
Here's what got me through my doubt. Or here's what got me and push my inspiration through.
2 points, and probably later I'll come up with more, but right now it's 2 points.
Let's make
2 points. One of them is don't take it so serious. You know, definitely you want to be disciplined, and you want to have a standard, and you want to, keep yourself accountable to this, and you've got people that inspire you, and you're always trying to get to that level. But sometimes it can reverse on you, and if you're too hard on yourself, you'll never it's like writing. You'll never write a great essay if you don't just start writing. Don't hold yourself back. And I think, and maybe
so fun
this
is part of it. This has to be fun as well.
It has to be fun, and you have to be a dancer. If it's like a cook who doesn't taste the food. If you're not dancing, I have a hard time taking the DJ serious if they're not a dancer.
Okay.
I'm just saying, that's on record, and I'm okay with that.
Point made.
So you have to, don't take it so serious, and don't be so hard on yourself. Enjoy it, love it, make mistakes, and then get right through that mistake and fix it. The second thing is stay in your lane. I've always thought about this. For years in San Antonio, we were part of the 90s, and we faced this, we'll never be Austin, and we'll never be Dallas. And I learned quickly, it's like, some of us don't want to be. Some of us are okay being San Antonio, and sometimes as me, as JJ the DJ, there's a lot of great DJs in this city. There's a lot of great DJs in the state, there are great DJs in the country, there are great DJs around the world, and I can't be worried, am I them or am I not them, or if people are fighting, I gotta stay in my lane.
Be your own thing.
Just be your own thing and have fun, Those are the 2 best things I think I could
That's good
say
advice.
somebody.
All right.
I just want to add, this is the only guy I know that dances as good as he DJs. So.
Okay.
Like, usually it's one or the other. You can do one better than the other, but like he's
I do always appreciate a DJ who is both equally boisterous and also likes to move along with his own rhythms. It inspires you. Yeah, that's what it's supposed to do. Inspire you to dance. And if you're not doing it yourself, it seems a little. Yeah. All right.
It is. I kind of, pretty much what Jay said. I think that there in the 90s there was a lot of talented DJs here, playing all sorts of music that wasn't techno or rock or metal, or even hip hop for that matter, because that was kind of the norm. You were either we would always joke about it because the music, being more of a soulful house, and in the 90s. We were too fast for people who liked R&B and hip hop, and too slow for people who were into electronic or techno. So we were kind of in this weird pocket. And like Jim was referring to about being Austin or Dallas, I kind of liked the fact that we were doing our own thing. It would pay bigger dividends later, and just you want to hear soulful, house music, go to San Antonio, and I take pride in that. At one point, it was great to have. A record store and a club night at the Cameo Theater and a radio show. I mean, it was like this really cool, homegrown. It felt very isolated in a way, but it also was very nurtured by the people that were contributing to it. But there were a lot of DJs back then that had that same mentality, but they were playing hip hop, but maybe not the radio stuff, or even like reggae and things. I mean, there was a lot of great DJs that used to come in with clips, and it would blow my mind by the stuff that they would recommend. And not only that, but they also had a flavor for the kind of music that I like. So it taught me how to listen to other things with the same kind of, critique ear. It's like, okay, this is the good stuff. This is stuff you can pass on. But to that kid that wants to just aspire to DJ, yeah, you just gotta do it. And I get it. Everybody wants to be popular, but I think that's where the change in the mindset of what your job is, and that's kind of just the culture now of DJing. It's all about that DJ, and really, I don't think so. I think it's just about everybody's involvement in that moment. It's nice to be the person being able to make people move and whatnot, but for me personally, it was weird. It was really weird. And I think DJing allowed me to help be more social, and I was perfectly fine with being behind the decks, and I was the one that was elected when we used to have house parties because I had all the music. But I didn't want to, I found it very odd for me at that time to mingle, because I was always listening. It's like, well, what's playing? And if I didn't like it, it's like, well, why don't they play this? And that's just me, but I think that, I think that if you want to do it because you love music and you love sharing it, then that's why you should do it. If you're trying to be that next superstar person, and hey, more power to you, but understand that everybody else is biting at the heels of that as well.
Right, that's a different approach.
It is it's a business, that's business. And you've got to find a balance between the commerce of it and the art of it to be happy. And if you can figure it out, cool. I couldn't deal with the business side. That thing it's not my thing.
Well, on that note, let's flip it. Tell me about real quick, what's the first time that you guys DJ'd? And by that I mean, not like you practice at home, but the first time you were paid and there was a sense of duty in your performance, right? And I don't mean the edited version of your first time, I mean the first really crappy time, or we really want to hear a humbling first time story. Why don't you go first, JJ? Yeah.
I mean, I got to play out at a couple parties, in 1995. There was some other promoters and stuff. Abe Noby from the Soul Family was one of the first guys to say, hey, you want to play a couple house parties with me? And I played with Sister Stroke, who now lives in Europe. I played with her. It was her and I. We came out at the same time. And it was a good opportunity to be around DJs who had already done it and to mess up. Shoes in the dryer. That means your beats are off. They're fumbling everywhere. And it's another way of saying messing up. Yeah, tumbling everywhere. Your beats are in the dryer. But I got real lucky, and it was a pretty classic experience. First, I was a promoter, supporter of the club, showed up, always helped set up, promoted the flyers for a very long time. It was the first club where I saw Leonard for the very first time DJing in 1996 or 97. And I came in and I was like, whoa, this is the 90s, 3 turntables and a sampler and a rotary mixer. And I'm like, who is this guy? And I told us I'd tell that story. I left some of it out. It was a colorful time. And then, but I got fortunate enough to be able to say that in my lifetime at the Cameo Theater, that famous club, the last 6 months I was a resident DJ and they paid me. And it was a real honor to be in that booth because I saw so many great DJs. I saw Frankie Bones played up there.
Did you frame your first check?
No.
You laminated? No, you cashed it.
Even if I got paid the first time.
I think you got kicked cash.
But they gave me JJ Lopez gave me this beautiful record when the club closed, and he signed it and said, thanks for everything, and that was worth it all. Yeah, that was my very first gig.
Awesome, Leonard, what's your first gig?
So this was kind of funny, and I got Buddy and I right out of high school. We used to go to these house parties, and we were.
So house parties is kind of like the theme. That's the first, that's where you get started.
Yeah. I mean, we would just throw our own kind of things. But the thing was, like 20 years old, 19 years old, and I'm already like a year removed from high school, And, you know, going to parties and things like that, it was just you're either into hip hop or it's metal or Tejano, and it's usually just kicking around drinking. And a buddy of mine, Ken, we were like, man, we want people to dance, so let's invite people over and we'll have a dance party. And we took it to a whole other level because we convinced his parents to stay. We got him a hotel. We got him a really nice hotel. And we moved all the furniture out of the living room, the dining room, he had like a side garage and shoved everything in there. We covered all the walls with tarp. It just took we put black lights and spray painted white paint on all this stuff. That's kind of where I got the whole Rise thing from.
That sounds fun.
And it was a blast. It was totally cool. And I remember we set up like cam lights and smoke machines and speakers everywhere. We had no idea what we were doing, but we just wanted people to dance.
Right.
And so I'll never forget because it was a crazy night. And after that party, we had a person, a mutual friend of ours came to us and said, you know, I want you to do this at my house. And I'm like, I don't know if we can. Like this, we messed that house up pretty good. I mean, I'm like thinking, you don't want this in your house, you know? But they're like, no, and we'll pay you. So I remember doing that first and getting like actual money from it. And then that followed into a second gig that we had. And that was like, I guess my official like club gig was at what is now the Limelight. It used to be called Wackies back in the day. And I remember a friend of mine had hired me to play her birthday party that she was having there, and I just brought my beat up mixer and turntables and had played what records I had at the time, and was able to collect money. And that's when it's like, okay, this is a business. And after that, buddy and I were like, hey, let's get business cards and we'll start handing them out. And start doing weddings and quinceañeras and like all this stuff. And then that's when I was like, I don't want to do that. I like that more of that house party vibe that we were doing where we could play whatever we want. And then that's.
But you did quinceañeras as well. Oh, everybody's.
I
feel like that's like a rite of passage.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I've done a wedding. I've done
Yeah.
a wedding or two.
Yeah, they were
They pay
brutal.
well.
Yeah, they did pay well, but they were brutal. They were hard because it just wasn't what I was. Those are DJs, and man, kudos to the DJs that are able to do that because that's a hard gig.
That's
and
a hard gig.
you earn every penny.
That's the hardest gig.
Yeah. So, I think that doing those, once I realized that wasn't and that's when I met Abe as well. It was right around 93 at Eclipse Records, which is a store that I worked at. And he was, getting into rave culture, and he asked me to play one. He was the first person that asked me to play an underground event where I got paid. And it was so young and everything was very new to everybody.
Can you guys share what pay night was like back then? This is mid-90s. What was it?
Besides the props that you got on the flyer, maybe about $25.
Wow.
$30.
Yeah.
Hey,
$30.
And then just that's my name on the flyer.
This was 1995, so translated.
This was in 1993.
1993. $30. It's about $100 today, something like that, right?
Yeah, maybe so.
It wasn't like black and white TV.
But it was very innocent back then. I think that a lot of the attention to rave culture had not been brought down in a negative sense, and they really truly were underground. Because you would get a flyer at that mom and pop record store, either Hotwell, Eclipse, Rio Records. This was even before Underground Sound. And you picked up a flyer, it had a phone number, you called the phone number on the day of the event, and it had a message where you had to go.
Message.
Like a
voice message.
Well, like a
recorded message.
Right.
Check that out.
Yeah, it was crazy. But it was, and a lot of people, I'll never forget, the first rave that I remember playing at with Abe, I think it was a Prophecy, but that was, I think, his first rave.
Right.
But the second one, he had it at this warehouse, and it started at midnight, which was just unheard of. Like everybody wants to go out at 9 or 10. By 11 o'clock, things should be building up, and he was starting it at midnight. So the idea was like going at 6 a.m., 7 a.m., and people weren't ready for that.
Not excited about that. Not yet.
No. But I mean, that's how much he wanted to push that kind of experience. Everybody else is doing it in all these other cities, so why couldn't we?
Well, if anything, I feel like your art is all based on experimental experience. You're able to create new things and play with new things, and there's no real, I mean, there are wrongs, but there's no real, deliberate mistakes. It seems like all of it is an expression of
There's plenty of
genuine.
mistakes.
I'm sure there is, but I think you know what I mean.
There's an
Yeah.
improvisational element to it. Absolutely. Yeah.
So there's so many more questions we could ask, but I do want to give the audience an opportunity to perhaps bounce back, bring some energy into the mix, and if there's anybody who has a particular question, this is a great time to ask. We got a volunteer right here. Tell us your name and your question, sir.
My name is R2. Questions for both the DJs is, I posed this question to JJ earlier. When did you fall in love? Like the movie, when did you fall in love with hip hop? The question is, when did you fall in love with house music? Question for both the DJs.
Question, when did you fall in love with house music?
Leo, you go first.
Joe Alfaro was a huge influence, and usually people that are in my inner circle know who he is. But he was the guy that was playing records while I was sweeping the floors at Eclipse Records. And first, of course, I didn't get it, and it took him, playing these records over the course of time to, kind of that light to go off. There were also other key DJs that would frequent the record store that, they would talk about these records, and I'd be like, I have no idea what you're talking about, but I'm curious, and I would later understand who these artists were. It all made sense when I went to New York on my 21st birthday. And I got to, by accident, I didn't even know what I was walking into. I went to Dance Tracks, which was a pretty prolific dance record store in New York City. And I picked up a whole bunch of flyers, and I knew I wanted to go hear Junior Vasquez at the Sound Factory, but that wasn't until Saturday. I was there on a Wednesday. And I found another flyer that said Sound Factory Bar. And I had no idea what that was, but I was like, maybe it aligns with the same thing. A guy by the name of Louis Vega was playing. Nice. And that's where I started to make the connection of all the records that DJs as well as Joe were playing in the record store. I was like, oh, I know this record. Wow, and then all of a sudden I was hearing not only house, but disco and 80s. There was just this collage of all sorts of music. They were playing reggae downstairs. I was just hearing this element that I had never been exposed to. So I literally, when I got back from New York, I changed, because I was at SAC just kind of trying to figure out what I wanted to do, but I was getting into art classes and things, and I was like, no, I want to do a radio show. And I so happened, Bart Koch, who was the music director at the time, he knew I DJ'd. And he's like, hey, I need some DJs. Would you be interested? And I was like, sure. So it's like I went through the first part of the RTF program, and in February of '95, bam, that's when House Nation started. So that was like, just
back on the FM dial.
And it is back on 91.7 KMTU, 10 to 11 o'clock, House Nation.
I love how we all go to SAC at some point to figure out what we want to do.
It's awesome place.
Yeah, it seems to be like a...
And I don't have any outstanding debt for it, so that's
great.
It's awesome. I can't
JJ.
say it. It was like my experience was like Leonard. There was a couple experiences, and I had to paste it together to understand what I was experiencing. But from like 93, 94, all the way up through 95, I was really into the rave scene, and it was a great time because it was sweeping across Texas, making its way to the West Coast from the East Coast, and there was great raves. And then they started to book house DJs at the end of the night. You would catch one, and one night I remember being in a basement at a party, and a DJ named Greg Watton from Dallas was playing disco records, and I thought this is different, and he was DJing, and I was watching him, and it was kind of clicking. And then a little bit later that same month, I remember going to the Cameo Theater, and Leonard was DJing, and I was hanging out, and everyone kept saying, he plays house, you got to hear this. And slowly I started to see it and started to hear it, and I had just had the disco experience. And then it all started to click, and the Cameo was booking some house DJs too, and then I met Joe Alfaro. And then someone gifted me a David Morales Frankie Knuckles CD, and that was it. It was late. it was late 95, early 96, and I was like, house is where it's at, and yeah, I fell in love with it. And it was an easy tie to soul music and soulful music, and like Leonard said, there came a time where we all were able to make the jump from house music into disco, and then into funk, and into soul music, and then jazz, and then we realized as house DJs, you know, you could play anything, you know, and that's when, and there were already people doing it. It's a very long history. And when you become a house DJ, you're a part of that history. You can play anything. I could play Steely Dan if I wanted to, and I'm very much a house DJ.
Thank you. Is there another question from the audience? Thank you, by the way, or two. Yes. What's your name, sir, and what is your question?
My name is Rick, and my question is about the equipment that you guys use. What are you currently playing on, and do you feel like, has there been I'm sure there has been maybe a slight evolution in what you started on to where you are today?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. Let me go first. Sure. I mean, I still use Techniques 1200s, and I think in the 23, 24 years I've been playing, this is my third set of Techniques, so they last. But I use 1200s, and I use a Carmen mixer, and they're out of Australia, and it's all rotary, just rotary. There's no faders, and really I'm simple. Just 2 turntables, rotary mixer, and a PA, and I'm happy. And nice 5-hour long set, and I'm good to go. Yeah.
So I kind of evolved over the years in regards. I preferred 3 turntables. I still use a Yuri 1620. They were really big in the late 70s, 80s. They were inspired by a Bozak mixer, which was kind of the first mass-produced rotary mixer. Also I have a Carmen Condesa, but I use the Yuri at home, and I use the Carmen when I play out. It's a tabletop mixer, so it makes it easier to maneuver. When we used to do the house parties back in the day, a Yuri is 19 inches wide, and it's about, I don't know, probably about 12 inches deep. So it's just not compact in any way, shape, or form. It's old technology, so it could take a beating. It's pretty delicate. You don't want to really move it around if you don't have to. So the Carmen made sense really on. I was waiting for a mixer that had rotaries. That's just a preference of mine, but that was easy to move around. And of course 2 Techniques, and I actually, because I think I was talking to Brittany, I think if this technology that is available now was around when I was DJing back then, I probably would have really dived deep into all the effects and the processors. I love that stuff, it's fun. I can also approach it from the standpoint of just playing the record, letting it end, and then, you know, putting another one on. But I enjoy both ends of it. The technology that I think I have a CDJ 100 Pioneer. I mean, I use it like a turntable. I mean, I play because there was a lot of stuff that's not available on record that is digitally, so I still like that record, and I don't need any more records.
So you started on Techniques?
I didn't. I had oh my gosh, I think it was, you know, like just a beat up Radio Shack mixer. I mean, belt drive, and yeah. I mean, I remember buying and I don't remember what brand, but it was basically the knockoff version of the Technique. I realized really quickly after setting them up that these are not Techniques, and I took them right back and used them as a down payment for my first 1200, and then I just worked my tail feather off to get another one as soon as possible, and I never looked back since. So.
Yeah. I had a Techniques dial pitch D9, direct drive though. It was nice. That was my first turntable, and then it was a Gemini like TX 100, and it was direct drive, thankfully. And I can't remember the Gemini like something mixer. It was real simple. I bought them off DJ Ray, the legendary DJ also in town. Yeah.
Your love and your appreciation for nostalgic things seems to really be embedded into your evolution as an artist, and how you learn to love and appreciate by transitioning from technologies. As technologies evolve, you evolve as well.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'd like to finish with a bit of an existential question, guys. And you have to fit it. You have to fit it in a Twitter handle, okay? So whatever many characters that is. Finish the sentence. It's clear to me that you love for music. So music is. I know it's very heavily charged, and if you need a second, you can. But think to you when you think to yourself. Music.
Go to commercial
does
break.
break.
Can we go to commercial
Commercial break. We'll be right back after this great
You
sponsor.
guys think it'd be,
So this is not a question, this is just a comment and so thank you, Leonard. Thank you for being there from day one for the AM project. JJ, thank you for always supporting us, giving, inspiring the kids, our community. Tonight was educational, it was inspiring, it was, an eye-opener, and it just was cool to hear the journey, where you guys started, where you are today, not losing that art of DJing. And I think, a lot of the young kids today don't see that and don't see the art. I want to be the next, Marshmallow or be the next, big act, but that art is important. And thank you for keeping that, being authentic, with your music. So I'm interested in hearing that with music.
All right, let's do it. Leonard, you first?
No, you go first. I really don't know, man.
Oh man, so it's
It's a little heavy.
so music is, right?
Music is.
Music is one of the greatest blessings that we have in this life. A wonderful intersection of rhythm and expression and community in many ways, but it's also intimate, so there's a paradox there.
I love it. I like that. So music is a mixture of rhythm and expression. I love it, brother. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Leonard.
I'm a bit more simple in that I just think
Bring
it's-
it.
I think music is just meant to be shared together, and rejoice together. It's a spiritual and emotional entity that needs just needs to be shared as much as possible.
I love that idea. I certainly see that music is kind of the one thing among all our cultures that tends to cross. There's no real boundaries anywhere for it. It just moves like wind. It moves everywhere.
Yeah, it's a universal language.
Yeah. I even learned to appreciate even music that has lyrics that I can't understand. There's still the music part that I can relate to, can understand. It's like a gateway or part of the glue or a common denominator that connects us to another language. Thank you both for your time.
Hey, thank you.
both for sharing.
Yeah, that was
Thank you both for your
wonderful.
expressions. And thank you one more time to the AM Project.
maybe like 15 minutes each on the tables?
All right, that's it.